Hi everybody and welcome to week 23 of Whiteboard Wednesday. My name is John Poulikakis and I'm the Chief Commercial Officer of the Melbourne Football Club. The commercial department consists of 8 different departments, or at least 8 different responsibilities, everything from community right through to corporate sponsorship and retail and merchandise. Now, over the next few weeks, we will go through some of those departments. In totality, those departments generate about 2/3 of the club's revenue. So as a broad brush benchmark, we would generate somewhere around about $20 million of the $30 million that we will generate in the next 12 months. So hopefully you see it as a pretty important part of the footy club. So today I want to talk to you about sponsorship. That's one of the more visible elements of the footy club, and when you don't have them, of course, it becomes a bit of a media frenzy. But it is obviously a major part of our revenue base, and I think you'll find that interesting. At least I hope you do. There are obviously many reasons why sponsors want to get involved in sports sponsorship, and indeed involved with the Melbourne Football Club. And there is a range of inventory that we offer, a menu, if you like, of options with varying degrees of investment that we take to market, and depending obviously on the needs of the sponsor, we can then accommodate a range of different options. That inventory can range from obviously the front and back of the jumper, which is obviously our primary inventory. It's the most expensive inventory that we sell, all the way through to shorts, coaches, box and coaches apparel, all the way to cheer squad. So there's about 5 or 6 different levels that we operate on, and obviously that reflects the investment that we're asking sponsors to make. The investment figure can vary from 5 all the way up to 7 figures, and generally that's the sort of level that most of our major properties are at. There are essentially 4 pillars, if you like, 4 reasons why sponsors come on board with sports sponsorship. The first one, and historically has been the major driver for a lot of companies, has been exposure. And not, I guess surprisingly, that tends to attract a lot of new entrants to the market. I think Kaspersky is a very good example. Or alternatively, you might look at a company that's looking to increase its profile, which is the case in being with regards to Hancock. They're looking to go to the next level. So sports sponsorship is a very good way of doing that. Etihad is a very good example. It's a new entrant to the market. They've chosen to go into sponsorship of a stadium. And of course Emirates is one that globally, in fact, has been involved in sport over many years. Again, with primarily with stadium and high-profile sporting teams as the basis for that exposure. But you can understand as a new entrant why you would need that sort of level of exposure, and why it's relatively cheap to traditional forms of exposure. So it's not a substitute, but it's a very good adjunct, really, to a lot of the marketing plans that these companies put into place. The second level is really about our membership base, and typically the sponsor would look at the opportunities that it has to impact on that membership base. Clearly the membership base has a very high level of emotional connection with the sporting club, and the sponsor is looking to leverage that, obviously, to sell their own products. Now, we'll talk about that in a little bit more, but obviously if there's a high level of engagement, then the likelihood that they'll gravitate to the sponsor's product is very high. The third dimension is really community, which is somewhat of an emerging dimension. And I say that because I think that in a commercial sense, at least, it's only in recent times that we've started to understand that there is a commercial potential to community engagement. And interestingly, while we talk about exposure being more relevant to new entrants, community tends to attract really the more sophisticated marketers who are looking for a deeper level of engagement. The last one is, of course, brand, and by that I'm talking about really two dimensions of brand. One is the association with the game itself, and what does that mean for an organisation to be seen alongside a sports brand that handles itself well, manages its brand well, interacts with society in a very positive way, and provides lots of role models and acts in a very with high level of integrity. So that's one level of the brand association. The other level, which is a more obvious one, is obviously the association with the brand itself. So in the case of Kaspersky and Hankook and all our sponsors, they're actually engaging and associating not only with the Melbourne Football Club, but this wider community of people called the AFL community. So it has a halo effect, if you like, that transcends both well, at very least the club parochialness. Okay, if I can go back to exposure, just to get a better understanding of how we generate exposure. The major form is really scheduling or fixturing, if you like. And that, of course, for us anyway, well, for all clubs, is not under our control. We make a submission to the AFL about what games we'd like, who we'd like to play, and obviously at the heart of that is really about how we maximise all our efforts, not just commercial issues, but obviously how we position ourselves in the marketplace. But the fixturing is really quite central to our ability really to generate exposure, because of course it's aligned to both free-to-air and paid TV exposure, and clearly they're the major drivers of the value that's generated in terms of exposure. Given that we don't control, we can influence it, but we don't control that. What we can control, or what we try and control, is really the peripheral media, and by that I mean obviously the traditional media, so print, news, and we have a media cycle which is in place not just for us but for all clubs, which is designed really to communicate news to our fans and to the wider community. So that has a role. And more recently, what we've seen ourselves do is, or get involved in, is in this social media space with Twitter and Facebook, and that has a value predominantly really as an education tool, so that we keep our members abreast of what's happening at the club. But clearly it has it just adds to the various platforms that we have in place to communicate and therefore expose our major sponsors' messages.